Coming up tonight on the news at 10, and NBC Montana fact checkers, we get the bottom line on Senate candidate claims of who's cutting Medicare. Plus, hackers prompt Montana State to offer identity theft protection to 1.3 million people. And background checks for every school bus driver in the state. We dig into new rules for people who drive your kids to school.
This is KTVM 6, your first alert station. You're watching the news at 10.
A Washington wildfire explodes, forcing thousands to flee before destroying entire neighborhoods, tearing through some 300 square miles. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Grace Ditzler. Lauren Mashman is off tonight. We're tracking a devastating western wildfire that tore through Washington. The latest numbers show the Carlton Creek complex northwest of Spokane is estimated to be nearly 169,000 acres. The fires are fueled by hot, dry, and windy conditions, and emergency officials believe it's destroyed more than 100 homes near the town of Pateros. The entire town of Pateros, population 650, has been evacuated. Charred remains of homes, cars, and personal belongings litter the area. People are living out of their cars or at shelters, and they're trying to find places for their animals. The worsening wildfires have prompted the governor of Washington to declare a state of emergency, which means they can call in the National Guard to help fight the fire. The situation's also become dire in Oregon, where they're running out of resources. According to the fire information site InsaWeb, 14 active wildfires are burning in Oregon. The largest, the Buzzard Complex, is 272,000 acres in the eastern part of the state. The next largest, the Pine Creek Complex, is 39,000 acres. A Type 2 team from Montana is battling that fire. According to the Montana Department of Environmental Quality, favorable conditions have helped clear some of the smoke out of southwest Montana. Here's some video of folks enjoying the warm night out at the Gallatin County Fair. You can see some smoke is lingering, but right now conditions are generally good to moderate. First Alert Chief Meteorologist Mark Haka is keeping an eye on the winds. Mark, could we see a shift that brings the smoke back? Thanks, Mark. Following up on a story we first brought you earlier this week, a viewer who reached out to NBC Montana to find out what was happening with an asbestos cleanup project in East Bozeman now says he's seen significant improvement at the site. Here's some background. Workers started pulling up the concrete sidewalk next to the Hebes Market the first week of June. It runs from the alley north to the parking lot on the west side of the street. The project was supposed to wrap up near July 3rd, but 2 weeks later, it's still all dug up. Viewer Seth Ward says he had a tough time finding out who to bring his concerns about the project to. NBC Montana's Colin Cashin met with Ward and city officials to learn what work has been done and what's next. Britt Fontenot says that any resident with a question related to issues like Bozeman City projects can reach out to neighborhood coordinator Allison Brecky with the planning department. Her number is 582-2260. Turning now to the latest developments with the downed Malaysian jet line in Ukraine. U.S. officials today said they believe a sophisticated surface-to-air missile is responsible for bringing down Flight 17. The crash killed all 298 people aboard, including one American. A big question now is what happened to the plane's flight data and cockpit voice recorders. The crash site is in a dangerous, contested region of Ukraine controlled by rebels. Ukrainian rebels gave conflicting reports about whether they had found them. U.S. officials say if separatists are to blame, it's unlikely that they could have done this without some sort of help. An expert on Russia and Ukraine called yesterday's crash a political nightmare for Russia. James Meyer is a professor at Montana State University. He explained to us that up until this point, Russia's been encouraging separatists in eastern Ukraine as a political move to distract from efforts to take control of the Crimea region. Meyer says the crash now has the whole world watching that region, and that Russian President Vladimir Putin will likely try to scale back support of the separatists and encourage a peace deal with the Ukrainian government. Meyer says now Europe and the United States will likely strengthen their sanctions on Russia as a way of economic and diplomatic punishment. And coming up after the break, an NBC Montana fact checker as we get the bottom line on Senate candidate claims of who's cutting Medicare. And can we expect this beautiful summer weather to stick around for the remainder of the fair? First Alert Chief Meteorologist Mark Haka is tracking conditions, and the full forecast is next.
You're watching KTVM 6.